I'm your host, Lauren Culver. This is your Independence Update. Did you know the Clarkson Independence District Library has a knitting club? The club meets on the second and fourth Wednesday of each month from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Drop-ins are welcome. The next meeting is February 10th. Contact Melissa Henry at 248-625-2212 or Henry M at indelib.org. Springfield Township is holding a board meeting on Thursday, February 11th, starting at 7:30 p.m. These meetings happen each month on the second Thursday of the month. On Thursday, February 11th, the Clarkson Area Chamber of Commerce is hosting their monthly Business Over Breakfast at New View Nutrition. The breakfast starts at 7:45 a.m. for time to network. This is a perfect way to learn how to network with a fun, interactive group and build relationships while building your business. On Saturday, February 13th, the Clarkson Area Lions Club is having a free children's kids site vision screening from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is for children ages 5 months and up. Results are immediate and report is provided at the screening. For a complete list of screening dates, visit www.clarksonlions.org. Valentine's Day is quickly approaching. St. Valentine's Day celebrates the feast of two Christian martyrs of this name. One, a priest and a physician, was beaten and beheaded on the Flamen Way at Rome, Italy, February 14, AD 269, during the reign of Emperor Claudius II. Another Valentine, the Bishop of Terni, is said to have been beheaded also on the Flamen Way at Rome, February 14th, possibly in a later year. Both history and legend are vague and contradictory about details of the Valentines. An old legend has it that birds choose their mates on Valentine's Day. Now it is one of the most widely observed unofficial holidays. We here at Independence Television wish you all a happy Valentine's Day. The Clarkson Community Schools are having their midwinter break recess, which means no school. Enjoy your break, everyone. The Clarkson Chamber is having a 4-part marketing series presented by Chris Drone of Drone Media Solutions. This will take place on Tuesday, February 16th from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. This is a member-exclusive series, valued at over $80 for entry series. Take advantage of this educational series for free with your Clarkson Chamber membership. The cost is $20 for non-members. That concludes our update for this week. If you have a story or information you'd like us to share on Independence Update, please contact us at 248-623-3661 or email us at update@independencetelevision.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Hi everyone, Pat Kittle here, and welcome to Independence Update. I wanted to spend the next couple minutes with you talking about something that's near and dear to all of our hearts, and that's Independence Water. You know, by now all of you have probably heard or read about what's going on in Maple Drive. You know, the graphic that you can see here highlights, this is an aerial view of Maple Drive. You know, the box that's in yellow in the top right of the screen represents the gas station. That's the alleged culprit into a gas leak that started out back in 2002 when it was remediated sometime in the 2000s. When I say remediated, that means new tanks and pipes were put in. But that for somehow way, shape, or form, this falls into the category of what's identified as an active LUST site. LUST stands for Leaking Underground Storage Tank. And again, by being active, that means it hasn't been 100% remediated. That means there still is a gas plume that exists down there. So what we found out over the past couple of years is this gas plume has actually migrated to the southwest and is now contaminating 7 of the 26 wells on Maple Drive, where one of those residents is actually above an action threshold as set by the MDEQ at 42 parts per billion, and where the DEQ issued a do not drink order to this one particular residence and is now bringing in bottled water. But again, what's the difference between 42 parts per billion or 30 parts per billion or 25 parts per billion as some of these other houses are testing for? And that's where we're meeting with the MDEQ right now to come up with a solution that's a little bit more holistic than just, you know, issuing a stop drink and providing one, fresh water to one resident. What do we do with the other ones? So The stuff that's contaminating the groundwater is scary. It's called methyl tertiary butyl ether. It's an organic compound, that is all volatile, it's flammable, and it's colorless. And MTBE was initially put in place as a gasoline additive years ago that was used to oxygenate the fuel and raise the octane numbers as cars were being, horsepower was being tuned down and cars were being detuned overall, to handle the emission standards. So, and again, as well as controversial in use, its use is declining to the point right now, the latest data that I could find is that as of 2005, 25 states, have banned MTBE, with Michigan being one of them. So that methyl tertiary butyl ether, it provides an unpleasant taste, at very low levels of concentration, rendering large amounts of groundwater undrinkable. The higher water solubility and persistence of MTBE causes it to travel faster and further, than many other components of gasoline, when released into an aquifer. And MTBE does not break down very easy either. It's not biodegradable. As a result, it's just harder to clean up once the contamination actually begins. And as far as from a health perspective, the EPA has determined that there isn't adequate data to support the low exposure levels as being harmful. The data does support that high doses of this is a potential carcinogen, to people. So the specifics behind Maple are highlighted here. The little red box is the gas station. The red arrow indicates the direction that the gas plume is moved. The buildings in green are those guys who are currently on township water. And again, what we're showing here is that 7 wells are currently testing positive for the MTBE, again with 1 above the action threshold. And 7 out of 26 doesn't sound terrible in being around 20%, 25%. But when you start to take a look at they've only tested half the wells, and they haven't gone any further than what you see here. We're jumping all over and partnering with the DEQ to make sure that we can get the balance of these wells tested. So it's kind of scary that this thing sat for as long as it did, and this hasn't really started to pop and raise its ugly head until about the last year or so. That little building is red is the first venue where the MTBE was actually showing up. It's a laundromat that is currently being used as a monitoring well by the DEQ as well. So it's just kind of creepy stuff. So, and it gets even scarier is when you look at this thing in the perspective of the township water supply. As you know, Michigan has a ton of aquifers all over the place, and Oakland County sits on top of a big one. And what we've then done is plot the other lust sites that exist in the township. And as you can see, they pretty much run up and down M15, and they branch off a little bit for White Lake and Dixie. And we have 2 on Sashbaugh Road up by Clarkston, the other one down by Mabee. And again, these are all older gas stations that have been around for decades. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the leaking underground tanks were found. Sometime over the next 5, 6, 7 years, with a lot of Superfund money, these tanks were replaced. But again, the remediation has not been complete, according to the DEQ, and there still exist gasoline plumes down there. So you plot this over our aquifers, and you can see the concern. So what we've immediately put into place back in December is new testing protocols where we test every wellhead that we have in the community. Our water serves 6,300 people, and after the testing in December and what we are now going to be doing every quarter, looking for these VOCs, those volatile organic compounds of which MTBE falls into, that's going to be the norm for us now. So the good news is our aquifers are clean, and what we pump out is clean. We've also started to partner with our fire department and the DEQ, and that we're going to be providing more eyes and ears on the ground to help support them. The fire department is going to be going out and testing every gas station quarterly, comparing fuel sold versus fuel purchased versus tank levels, and again, trying to get a little proactive approach to see if we can find any leaks in any wells. Again, I talked about what we're going to be doing to test the community water. And then for each of these lust sites, there are monitoring wells located around them. And the old provisions with the DEQ actually had the alleged polluter responsible for monitoring those wells, and we didn't think that was a good thing to do. So what we're going to do is the DPW is now going to monitor them and report back to the DEQ quarterly to make sure that we can stay ahead of whatever might be happening in the community. So what about private township wells. So again, if things are moving in one site, do I have problems in all these other lust sites? Again, here the graphic is the map that shows all of the lust sites in the community. We then superimposed our water system on top of that. From there, we then put concentric rings around each of the sites, to kind of gauge just, from a Maple perspective, that water, the gas plume has traveled a little over a half mile, or a quarter mile. If you went all the way to the end of Maple, it would be a half mile. So that was kind of the rationale for how we set these little rings up around these lust sites. So each ring is 1 mile in diameter, again, half mile radius. And in there, we then plotted parcels against it. And then we actually took a look at all of our water customers and how many of them were inside of those rings. Again, the inverse of that would be the number of people who are on private wells. So right now we have about 13,500 residents in the community. That represents residential and commercial properties. 6,300 of those are our water customers. That leaves 7,200 private wells. And what our GIS mapping has showed us that of all those wells, there's about 1,100 of them that fall within these circles, these areas of concern. So what are we doing as a township? We're going to be starting testing. We're going to be starting to notify people. And then, one other element that we have to throw into the mix here as well, since we've started looking at all this stuff, is arsenic. Again, that's a naturally occurring phenomena. It's a mineral that's dissolved in groundwater. It seems to be everywhere in all of the wells in Oakland Township or Oakland County. Independence happens to be the second highest concentration of arsenic in Oakland, with Brandon being number 1. And it's everywhere. I think out of a recent study of over 1,900 wells that were tested, 600 of them tested positive for arsenic above the minimum thresholds that are currently established. So the minimum concentration levels back in 2002 were lowered, for the state, from 50 parts per billion down to 10 parts per billion. We spent about $20 million updating all of our water pumps with new filtration systems. They went online in 26, which was the requirement. We did meet that. And before filtration, the township raw water arsenic levels range from about 4 parts per billion to 30 parts per billion, with Baycourt being the lowest and Walden Creek the highest. After filtration, arsenic levels coming out of the plants ranged from 0 parts per billion to 6 parts per billion, with Deerwood Sub being the lowest, and again, Walden Creek being the highest. So arsenic is kind of, again, it's a strange, sort of pollutant in that there are certain hot spots within the community. And again, that's why we're also asking people to make sure they go out and get their wells tested. So what we're going to do, we don't want to be caught sitting on our hands waiting on this, just because of the sensitivity of fresh, clean drinking water. We all take it for granted. I know I do. You expect your shower to run and your toilets to flush, and in terms of how you cook and bathe and clean. But I don't want to be that guy. I want to be one that's going out and to be proactive on this. My board agrees, the village board agrees, and we're going to go out and start spreading the word in Township Times articles. We are going to send a first-class letter to each of those 1,100 residents who reside in one of those areas of concern to please make sure, call the DPW. Test kits will be available beginning of next week. Get your well tested. If you would just dial 248-625-8222, representatives at the DPW will be able to take you, an appointment right over the phone, and we will have a DPW rep come out and test, not for just the normal things that the county health department tests for, but again, these volatile organic compounds and arsenic, to make sure that your drinking water is safe. For those of you who do live outside of the rings, again, stop in at the DPW. We will have arsenic tests there for you. It's easy to do. You just, you fill it up with tap water, you throw it in a shipping container, and just send it in the mail. But there is a charge to this. The state charges us $100 for the VOC test and $20 for the arsenic test. We've tried to negotiate lower levels. They wouldn't give us a discount because they say that is their cost. So when we do ship this stuff in, there will be a check required from you, to get this test completed. We'll have other information on our township websites. Again, the Township Times, Oakland Press, Clarkson News. Check out if you want to see the presentations. Check out the last board meetings for the village and the township. And again, where you get a better understanding of what we're trying to do and the proactive approach that we're trying to take with it. Water is, again, one of those things that, you just expect to happen every day, but, you got to test it. You got to make sure that it's safe, that it's clean, it's pure, and we do that religiously in the township. But like you go out and you test your furnace every year, or you get your car checked out, before the winter months to make sure that they're running it in top condition. We need to make sure that everybody in the township adds their well water to that test as well, as part of their annual to-do list, to make sure that it's clean, it's safe, and so that there's no surprises with some of these gas plumes that may or may not be moving in the community. So I'm hoping that there's nothing wrong with any Lust site, and that I'll be criticized as being the guy who cried wolf. My worst nightmare is we do nothing, and one of these plumes does move, and we do have an issue that we could have attacked sooner. So again, that's why we're doing what we're doing. So with that, if you do have any questions, call Township Hall. Our best solution would probably be call the DPW and just get on the horn with them and make an appointment. So again, it's your health, safety, and welfare that we're trying to look after, and but we're going to need your help. So with that, signing off. Pat Kittle here, and thanks for watching Independence Update.